Hello and welcome to the Utropeia podcast. I am your host, Ken, but not a mistake. However, I could be mistaken. If this is your first time listening, it's a good one? You like that, Chris?
No, don't.
No one liked it.
No one likes it. No one likes my jokes.
I
And
like
then
them,
the
Ken.
numbers plummet. All three of them. Hello, you are listening to the Utropeia podcast, the podcast where we talk about tropes. I am your host, Ken, but I make a little joke at the beginning, and if this is your first episode, you're welcome. I also go by Pumpkin. I am joined tonight, this evening, whenever you're listening to it. It can be a timeless podcast, this podcast of ours. My ghosts, and special co-hosts, my ghosts. Tonight we're all dead.
We've all been dinosaur ghosts this whole time.
We've all been dinosaur ghosts this whole time. I was gonna say this whole grain, and you know what? I wish I.
God, you don't even have to try it.
I was bred a dinosaur ghost.
I don't even know rye. I try anymore. Okay, so tonight we are joined by Anna Cranberry.
Hello?
Chris Moonjump.
Ooh.
Moonjump. Bill, Mr. U Video. Bill, Mr. U Video.
Mr. U Video!
Boop, 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 boop. Bwah, bwah, bwah. Klaxon, klaxon, klaxon.
Klaxon.
Ghost party!
And Saker Dimmsdale.
Spooky dwarf ghost. Okay, bye.
And here to exorcise the demons, it's Todd Ogredose.
Hi.
That's so cute.
And they're all
You're
gone.
adorable.
And we're back to normal. Good job, Todd.
Hi.
It's what I do.
Yeah. So if you've never listened to the show before, this is probably a shock, but this is Utropeia. We talk about tropes. This week we are talking about the ruler archetype. But in order to warm up and catch up a little bit, and to relish the moment, if you will, condiment jokes, everybody. Condiment jokes. We like to talk about things that we might be excited for. This could be nerd related. This could be personal related. But you know what? We're all friends here, and we like to know what's going on in each other's lives. And if you don't like that, then leave a smiley face. That's right. I'm going against the grain this time. The whole grain. I'm just kidding, white bread.
How many bread jokes?
It's the yeast I could do.
It's disgusting.
I like that one. It's good. It's a little tap.
Little tap. Little tap tap
Little
tap.
tip tap tap.
Little tip tap tap tap.
You know what, Bill, Mr. U Video.
Oh God.
No.
Bill.
What are?
Oh.
Are you excited about things? Do you like stuff? Are you bummed out about things?
I started classes this week.
How's it
Been
going?
consuming all my time.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's
how does
alright.
that make you feel?
It's fine. I'm busy. I'm getting into the part of my program that's all 3D modeling and simulation, so it's not as. No, actually, no.
No.
Like I learned all the stuff I wanted to learn from the program essentially now.
There's nothing you can teach me anymore.
Apparently, all the animation stuff was in the first semester.
Oh yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Everything else is like, hey, make super real 3D stuff.
I think Todd Ogredose has someone in his swamp that's messing things up for
Is someone ham boning a little too loud
I think somebody's ham boning.
in the background?
Just hear you yelling against, on the opposite direction.
Is Bri playing Mario Kart? Is that why?
He is.
Tell him to shut up.
I just imagine you getting a broomstick and hitting the ceiling.
Quit moving all that juice.
Try to do it like, I don't want to interrupt Bill.
I'll edit it out in post. Maybe.
Or
Large
leave it
blocks
in.
of-
Whatever.
Yeah. Special guest, Brian Hambone Hannah.
Hello.
As. Hi, I'm Daisy.
God, I wish they had kept that. That's the reason I had started liking Daisy, is because of how I am Daisy. I mean, she's still dumb as a brick, which makes me very happy. But she doesn't have her famous catchphrase anymore.
They got rid of Luigi's best line, too.
What was that?
when he'd win, he'd say, "Oh, Luigi time,"
Oh.
and then when he would lose, it'd be like, "Oh, not Luigi time."
That's right. I forgot about that.
I like lose again. Like he's used to it.
My favorite in this one, let's not even talk about tropes anymore. When Waluigi loses, he goes, "Everybody cheated," which I love.
I like Roy because all he does is go.
Isn't he your boy?
Yeah, he's my boy. Roy's my boy.
Roy boy.
Did you?
Boy.
Okay, never mind. That's a spoiler. Never mind.
2 years, man. 2-year rule.
2-year rule.
We are way.
And
off
speaking of
topic.
2-year
We're
rule,
all
let's talk about
excited.
some rulers.
Well,
No, let's not do
after
that yet. We're
other
still in the
people-
first part. I felt like this
I
was
just kinda figured
Dystropia
we'd
for a second, so I
These
took
are
over.
desperate measures.
Oh, God.
It wasn't there. You had to find it. I'm excited about all these awful puns.
Do you know Anna, or have you had yet to meet her? Metric system.
That was just an inch you had to scratch, wasn't it?
I think we started off on the wrong foot.
Well, the ball's in your yard, Anna. So
Damn it. How am I supposed to follow that up?
well,
Who even wants
You
to
just
hear
have
what
to
I'm
meter in
excited
your
about now?
you could use a milestone.
No. Stop it. Stop it.
Stop it.
Stop. You excited about anything? Or? No, come on.
I'm excited.
Excited.
How am I ever supposed to speak on this podcast?
I don't know.
I'm excited for Hyrule Warriors.
Hyrule
Yay.
Warriors.
Hyrule Warriors.
Sequel to Dynasty Warriors.
Yes, Lubu. What'd you call me?
Throw down?
Sure.
You gonna throw down?
I'm a mad
You're
dog.
gonna fight Lubu? You're crazy.
Lu Bu is actually Chinese for throw down.
Oh shit!
I don't know if you
You
knew
just
that.
threw down some knowledge on us.
Just lube freaking
You
knowledge.
just loo-booed some wisdom down on our asses.
Oh my god. I pass. I was able to say one thing. Next.
Hyrule Warriors looks really cool. There's a bunch of trailers out right now. Dope. What is it with you and
It does look
cocaine?
pretty dope. Oh no.
Dope.
Someone
Hi,
else.
I'm Daisy. Todd. Excited.
Brian, what are you
for
excited
Brian?
about?
Excite break.
Brian's very excited about a few things, it seems. What am I excited about? I watched a documentary. I can't. One-ups me every time.
It's just like in Mario Kart.
Very quiet, but there. It is a room of ghosts, so
This is true.
It is.
Brian is
There's-
haunting this podcast.
Yeah.
Honestly, the best thing to do.
Even if
Almost
I don't
on
even care.
cue.
Almost on mic. Jesus.
He is
That was
loo-booing
perfect.
down right now on Mario Kart.
oh my
It's-
god.
And he's in like the next room.
That's amazing.
Just spin that game.
That's your mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, go back to your shitty mic.
Whew, sorry.
What are you excited about, Todd?
God damn it. I watched a documentary just recently called Dear Mr. Watterson. And it was all about Bill Watterson, the creator of
Calvin
and Hobbes.
Yeah.
And it was a very nice. Well, it was about him and about Calvin and Hobbes in general. It was really just like a love letter to Calvin and Hobbes, and it was a really, really nice documentary. And I found out that Bill Watterson's actually from a city like 20 minutes away from me.
Oh, yeah, he's from Cleveland.
Yeah, he's from
Yeah.
Chagrin Falls.
Oh, okay,
Specifically.
okay.
Which is
my.
Yeah, which is where Jenny's is that we get ice cream from.
That ice
So
cream.
we've been to where Bill Watterson calls home. But yeah, it was a really nice documentary, and I would suggest if you like Calvin and Hobbes or generally syndicated comic strips, gives God damn it!
No, it's time to check out Dear Mr. Watterson. That's what that alarm is for.
And
not to start
in
the
the vein of
podcast.
Anna, I pass. I can't do this anymore.
Sacred Dimmsdale.
Hey.
Speaking of interruptions,
Yes! This is the best one. This is called Speaking of Interruptions for right now.
I am, Anna, do you remember that one time when everybody told me about you before I had met you?
What?
Yeah, they put me on a bus, and they said, yeah, now you're sent to meet her. Okay, anyway, I don't know. Alright, so
the top row.
It was a really solid effort.
I try so hard
The
and get
problem
so
I have,
far.
Saker, is when you start sentences like that, the first half will sound extremely sincere. And I get so confused because I'm like leaned in with the first half, like, oh, what's he gonna say? This sounds really interesting. And then, fuck, it's all a lie.
That's
Who's
right.
down with his pun setup.
I am excited because Vigi Games. I just bought. I wasn't gonna buy into the hype, but Xenoblade Chronicles Shulk was just announced for Smash Brothers, and I was totally unfamiliar with Shulk, so I went out and purchased Xenoblade Chronicles, and I've been playing it. I'm only about 5 hours in, but it's pretty fun so far. And Dead Rising 3 comes out for PCs tomorrow, one of my favorite video game series of all time, so I'm psyched to play that. So all sorts of vidya. Yay! Don't cry, Todd. You can play it too. So yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
That's a good.
Excellent.
I am an Excite Bike for. Well, I've been playing a little bit, and it's already been out for like a week. But Five Nights at Freddy's. It's one of the best survival horror games that I've seen so far, actually. I watched all of Markiplier's videos. He's on YouTube. Check him out. He's a cool guy. And I like a quote from him, which is, I thought the scariest thing you could make someone do is putting them in a situation where they have to do something that they don't want to do. But for Five Nights at Freddy's, you're stuck in a room and you have to wait for them to come and get you pretty much the entire time. It's very fun. I'm going to be... I already have a little bit of game footage recorded. I'm going to be posting that... it'll probably have already been posted by now, actually. So that's what I'm excited for. I'm also excited for all of the pumpkin beer that is stocking the shelves, because I do like pumpkin-flavored things, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Seems like cannibalism.
Cannibalism?
Cannibalism! My God, it's happening.
I should have saved that for another week, but oh well. It's fine. Maybe for our spooky, scary month.
Cannibal Lantern? Is that it?
Cannonball Run.
What?
Who's ball?
What?
Why did you just throw that one away? That was
I
beautiful.
don't know. I just try so hard. Lubu'd.
So far.
Lubu'd so much. But in the end, we're talking about the ruler archetype. And when I say the ruler archetype, who do you usually think of? The rule of thumb. Thumb, inch.
Keep going.
Because the imperial system was based off of like the current monarch's thumb, and also that's like what measurement was. It's a very in-depth joke. I'm gonna refine that bit.
Making
What
notes.
is happening?
Hold on. No, we're getting really meta right now. Okay.
I don't know. You give him an inch, he thinks he's a ruler.
There it is. Back from the depths of the dungeon. Anna,
Yes.
ruler.
No.
Okay. Chris.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I do have some experience being the ruler of an entire orbital body.
The moon?
So I go with it, that's correct. And eventually, once I become God Emperor of Mars.
Okay.
Oh,
But when I actually think of rulers, I have to think of the most badass of rulers in kind of fictional history, which is the God Emperor from Warhammer
That's
40k.
right, God Emperor. For the Emperor.
Yeah, because I mean, there you go. There's someone who rules absolutely. Is the world's greatest psychic and can single-handedly hold back the dark and guide starships.
How old is the God Emperor?
That's a very good question.
Old as balls.
Because they wind up putting him on an artificial life support. I think it winds up being something like, I think they're at like year 3 or 4,000.
Yeah, it's a long ass time.
Yeah.
How do they keep him sustained, Chris Moonjump?
They actually sacrifice psychers to him.
Me?
Psychers are
What?
other people with psychers. Yes.
Sacrifice all those sakers.
Psycho Dimmsdale.
Psyker. If I were from the South.
Yeah, they actually, to be able to sustain him on the Golden Throne, they have to sacrifice other people with psychic energy to him by the thousands daily.
Yes.
To be able to sustain his power. So they're not actually sure if because basically he winds up being in a coma in the Golden Throne, and they're not sure what happens if they actually were to take him off life support. Because he could either become a fully transcendental being and basically be able to banish the dark for once and for all, or you could kill him and all the starways would collapse down and everyone would be stranded for the inevitable darkness and chaos to devour everything. So
Good time.
it's kind of a crapshoot. So they just leave him alive and sacrifice thousands of people to him.
How to save a life.
The blood of others.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Where did I go wrong? I'd say more of the song, but I haven't watched enough episodes of Scrubs to really, pick up all the lyrics. Because it plays whenever JD fucks up. Anna, what do you think of?
Ghost.
All right, Todd, what do you think of when I say the ruler archetype?
I go to a very general kind of ruler type, and that's the Sultan from Aladdin. And he's kind of like, when I think, there's so many different kinds of rulers and whatnot. I actually want to get into it a little bit later.
Sure.
In the podcast. But he's kind of what I think of when I think of like the jovial, like benevolent leader.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like, he's kind of like bumbling, but he, like, his people love him. And he seems to be doing a pretty good job at ruling, except for the, terrible royal vizier. But yeah, it's kind of what I go to, like the jolly bearded ruler,
Jovial kind of guy. Yeah. They're doing pretty well in Agrabah, I think. Like,
yeah, it seems like a pretty good system they got going there.
Pretty much.
And I guess by proxy, Prince Ali would be a ruler type too, kinda. Prince Ali is kind of what Aladdin thinks a prince is, sorta.
Yeah.
So, and again, we can get into that a little more later. But yeah, it's got. I kind of go to like the Holly Jolly King,
the happier ruler, rather than an iron fist, a kind of marzipan palm, I guess.
Ooh, speaking of marzipan, king of town.
the king of town!
Star!
Downloads! Characters? And a Cranberry. What do you think? Ruler!
Yes. Can I speak?
Saker!
Alright! I think of almost the exact opposite of what Todd thinks of, because when we started talking about rulers, my first thought was Shao Kahn from the Mortal Kombat series.
Not Shere Khan, the
No.
tiger in the Jungle Book, but Shao Kahn.
Shere Khan.
Indeed, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Although, that makes me wonder, I can't believe I've never put those two together before. I'm sure that when they were writing the Mortal Kombat series, Jungle Book was on in the background. They were just like, yeah, whatever, just name him. Yeah, sure. He's a bad guy? Yeah, whatever.
Mortal Kombat was written by Richard Kipling, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was written by Rudyard Kipling, which is really... Wait, what? Wait, is that the same thing?
King
I think
Louis?
you just
Liu
actually
Kang?
repeated what I said. Oh.
Wait, did you say Richard? We're gonna get to the bottom of this.
Richard Parker? Also a tiger?
I'm...
Tony?
Upton Sinclair. Yep. Okay. So anyway,
Hobbs.
Mortal Kombat was written by the Jungle, and yeah. So Shao Kahn is the exact opposite of the Sultan in that he is he's the ruler of not a happy land where everyone sings songs, but the Outworld, which is he's actually the Emperor of Outworld. It's a horrible place and it's hellish, and he is the kind of the. In fact, it's weird that I think of him first because he's kind of who I would define as a bad example of the Emperor, because his only motivation, his sole motivation in life is power and to get more of it however possible. I just think he had so much influence on the way I saw like complete control as a kid, because a king has complete control, and Shao Kahn in my head was impossible to beat in Mortal Kombat, and I played a lot of Mortal Kombat as a kid, so I think the two became synonymous, like the Iron Fist, as you said before, and his sort of whole aesthetic too. So that's Shao Kahn.
It's his lair that you kind of have to go to. Also, it's like the end game.
Sure.
Much. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have to fight him as well, obviously, and he's incredibly difficult. And the thing about him is, you're fighting him in his lair, and he's so good. He's the only character who the AI will ever choose to taunt with as well. So he'll beat the snot out of you, and then he'll just point and laugh at your character. Like he's totally brutal, and he has complete control. Like there's absolutely very little that people can do to beat him, or at least that was my view of him as a kid. I haven't played Mortal Kombat in a long time, well, at least the early ones. But yeah, a iron-fisted dominant ruler.
And what's interesting about that is that it's our first video game example, but I wasn't thinking of, when I was doing research for this week's episode, of kind of the video game ruler almost, because you're experiencing going up against them, or if you are the ruling monarch in certain games. Fable. Yeah, Fable. Oh, yeah, that's a great example, actually.
Oh, and there's a Little King Story, too. I don't know if anybody's ever played Little King Story for the Wii, but it was kind of a sleeper hit for the Wii. Basically, you're a young prince, and you're trying to build up your kingdom. But I always think about that one, too.
It's a cute one. I remember the title, I can't think of the box art or anything about it.
They also gave us a very weird. They gave us one that was almost the exact same time as that I often get mixed up, which is the My Life as King, the Crystal Chronicles sequel, kind of. And that one was another one where it was, it was very interesting to kind of take it from the macro scale, where you're not the dude who goes out and slays monsters. You're the king. You have to stay in your town and do stuff.
Can't wait to be that.
Huh?
Just
That's
can't
true.
wait.
And those are two really different views of the king, because I think obviously in real life the king is more like Little King Story, and My Life as a King, where you're, it's more of a passive, if it were a video game it would be a lot of micromanagement, a lot of Sims type of thing. But then, most of the time in fiction you get the hero king, who's, the active king, which obviously never existed in the real world ever. But I think that's an interesting separation between fantasy and in real life.
Anna Cranberry. Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to actually talk
this
about
the
it?
time?
Is it?
Is
Do you
it?
want to?
Am I allowed?
If I say ruler, will you say an example?
Only puns.
Okay, only puns.
No, I have an example.
Okay, cool.
What comes to mind? There's a lot of different stereotypes for the ruler.
Okay.
But what comes to mind for me is like the king from Robin Hood.
Yeah.
Where it tends to be a power hungry, kind of selfish king. Because usually they're the focus as a villain in a story, if that's the case. Because they have this whole story arc where they're overthrown or learn their lesson, blah blah blah, turn into a terrible ghost.
That's true.
My
That
favorite
happens.
story ending.
He was known as John the First. He's sure to be known as John the Worst.
Oh.
That's what I remember. And he's an interesting kind of. He's almost like a sub archetype below that, because he's the kind who's he's second in command. He's always lusting after the power. He's always. He's kind of incapable, but he still wants to be respected and ruled. It's like this sniveling king, or like the the one who kind of hides behind the muscle in the podium.
Was he was a prince, wasn't he?
Was it Prince John?
I think, it was Prince John and
King
King Richard?
Yeah.
Yeah. King Richard, your brother, who's away.
It's because King Richard was on the Crusades.
Those crusades.
Wet crusades.
Always with those crusades.
Praise Allah.
That was an odd
That's
choice.
Well, that's what the we talked about the Sultan earlier, so that's what it is. But no,
Okay.
I had a pun. I had something about salt, but I wasn't gonna.
Condiments?
No, I'm gonna refine that bit. Okay, just working on.
Sea salt.
Okay, sea salt. But who sells the ending of Who Does It Well? It's Bill, Mr. U video.
Oh boy.
Or who you think of first? Sorry.
So it's just ruler, right? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Because when I thought it was king for a little bit, and the first thing I thought of, just because I have one sitting on my shelf, was King Slimes
Oh,
from Dragon Quest. I don't know if they're really rulers though.
do they?
But
Is it all about their people? They just want to.
well, they are 8 slimes fused together. So they are all about the people.
Yeah, really.
But for ruler, the first thing that comes to my mind would either be Peach or Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
Especially Twilight Princess Zelda, but I'll get into that a little bit more with Who Does It Well.
Are those our first female examples of rulers?
Yeah.
I think they are, actually.
Way to go, Bill.
I wasn't trying to, but alright.
No. But I mean, they're kind of the big staples. That kidnapping episode that'll never see the light of day, we kind of talked about it. Because we don't negotiate. But they're the main focus, they're kind of the MacGuffin for the story, but I mean, they are rulers, like they purvey over the land. There's a reason why they're sought after. Like sometimes the King of Hyrule or the Mushroom King or King Toadstool doesn't necessarily even make an appearance. It's all about the princess, and sometimes they're fighters, and sometimes they just want to bake a cake. It seems like they genuinely care for their subjects, at least.
I would say especially Peach.
Mm-hmm.
She's out there, she's using the kingdom's money for sporting events.
Yeah. She's raising a lot of awareness, I'd say.
Fixing the
Races
roadways.
with her enemy.
Like,
Are we all ignoring her neutral B in Smash Brothers, where she holds Toad out in front of her to block an attack?
Look,
I'm sure that Toad
knew what they were
chose to do
signing up for, man.
that. Toad's probably like Royal Guard. You don't know.
And as we've seen in Mario Galaxy 1 and 2, they're just screaming and running around, and you know what? I don't even have to reference Super Mario Galaxy. I could reference any Mario
I don't-
game.
I don't think
totally.
we can really blame Peach for wanting to throw one of them in the way. They literally do nothing. Every once in a while, one or two of them will follow Mario and Luigi, but
Or just be really good at throwing turnips in a dream. It's been more than 2 years. I can spoil that, right?
If they've got a yellow or blue hat, they go on adventures sometimes.
Sometimes.
It's true.
yeah, we do have Captain Toad coming up, so maybe they'll.
Oh
redeem
yeah!
them.
Oh man, I can't wait. Those were fun levels.
Is that what you're
Uh-oh.
excited about?
Am I alone in that? Yeah, I'm sort of excited
Oh
about it.
no, Captain Toad looks fun.
Okay.
No, it looks like a good game. Okay.
The subject was changed so quickly. Yeah, it looks great. Okay, next.
Okay, who do I think of first? Well, I put down Emperor Palpatine from Star Wars, but he orchestrated like a bunch of stuff so that he could go into power. He's like the evil. He's like the evil ruler archetype that I usually go to first. I don't know why. I went to just evil rulers first, but a lot of people want power. Some people think power is sexy. Some people think that power turns on your computer. It turned on mine.
Wait, was that a joke about sexy? It turns on your computer?
Maybe.
Okay.
Sometimes I have to
Just
dance
checking.
to please my computer.
What is going on?
What exactly is happening in this episode?
Brian is just
what's
yelling.
Brian got to say about
He's upset.
it? He doesn't like it that we're going away from the usual format.
Sorry, Bri.
It's all right. We'll get back on track, man. But look, I want to ask this question: what inspires a person to want to become a ruler? I think, it's it's an important motivator question to kind of ask. Like, why would someone necessarily want to be in a position that has that much responsibility and a lot to it? Just, that it could be, because they want to make things better. They want to do the world a favor, something like that. They want to spread the word. They think they're doing the right thing. Maybe they just want to prove themselves, like Prince John. I was stonewalling you the whole time, but Anna Cranberry, why do you think someone would want to become a ruler? What inspires someone? And this can be an open discussion too. It doesn't have to just be like, segmented.
Am I allowed?
Yeah, I'm letting you.
Is it gonna start? Is Chris gonna start? I mean, he is ruler of a land, but
It's true. All right, I will go ahead and use my noblesse oblige to kind of instruct. Well, I mean, you kind of get into the classic, kind of Hackney stereotype of power. Is that and of course that actually doesn't really accurately apply to most kings from families because they're not in it for power; it's a legacy.
no one man
But
can have all that power.
but usually it winds up being one of those, I think in many ways people who rise to the top are the ones who are most who are most willing to utilize power, whether that be, top of their team, top of anything else. They're the ones willing to basically use the resources that they have at hand. And so for a king, it can be the ambition, but also the ability to utilize, organize, and manipulate a country in the way that they need to.
You can be brought up for it also. That's true.
And that's what I wanted to mention, was that sometimes you don't have a ruler that wants to be a ruler. Like sometimes they're they by birthright are thrown into it, and that's when you get like your hesitant leaders and your hesitant heroic kind of figure, but with a king or queen status with it, where they don't, Merida from Brave is like that with she doesn't want to be a queen and rule over the world or rule over their land. She wants to ride a horse and shoot a bow.
Change your fate.
Would you?
Would you? Yeah, carry on, Chris. Sorry to interrupt.
Well, and I think that's often something that's important to kind of look at. Is in many ways, traditional aristocracy has always run into the concept of noblesse oblige, which was kind of misappropriated by democracies later as kind of a fad for newer money. But it's one of those, a king is raised and has been taken great care of by his people. That means that he also does have that responsibility to make sure that their sacrifice to him is honored and kind of carried forward back to them. In a way that only he can, and if kind of dealing with the reluctant rulers and things like that, is there are people who do not seek the power simply for the creature comforts of it. It's in many ways that they acknowledge that they're the best person for it, but they don't necessarily want it. I mean, a great example of that would be like Strider from Lord of the Rings.
Aragorn. Also
Yes.
the ranger.
Yeah. Well, and I refer to it specifically as Strider because there's a reason he spends time out as a ranger rather than going back for the kingship. Is he understands he's the rightful king. There was never any question. The movie kind of gets that wrong because they show him as being very reluctant for it.
Yeah, well, he's got to return, right?
Yeah, exactly. But in the books, he always knows that that's his duty. So what he's actually doing by being a ranger is by understanding his special position, he goes out to be better than what he could be.
He also gets a +2 to tracking specified enemies.
Yes. as his traditional ranger.
That's his traditional ranger benefits.
Look at the grass. Hobbits went that way.
There they go. There they go. He's
There
on
they go.
fire. Anything else?
Yes.
Well, I think one that we also that we didn't bring up that's a great kind of historical example is Julius Caesar. everyone always kind of realizes Emperor Julius Caesar, Kaiser Julius Caesar, basically winds up. What a lot of people don't realize is Julius Caesar did not assume power. He was actually voted power by the Roman Senate because shit was getting real, and
The Senate kind of turned on him at some point, right?
Yeah,
too.
well, and see that's the funny thing is because the powers that actually made him emperor for the moment had actually been given to Julius Caesar once before in history, and he gave them back as soon as he had defeated, I think it was the Normans. And he actually gave power back, and then they asked him to do it a second time, but then for this reason they assumed that he wasn't going to give it back this time, so they murdered him.
Oh,
Justifiably
sure.
so.
But it's one of those. I think that's the other one is kind of the merit-based leadership, where it's almost that people look to you by default.
Mhm.
It's not necessarily even something in your motivation. It's just everyone took a vote and you're the leader.
Mhm.
I feel like kings get murdered a lot.
That's kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
And then when they take over the throne, it's like, would you really trust that guy? They just murdered the last king.
Yeah, he was really good at murdering
Isn't
the
there,
others.
They did a great job at
Isn't
it.
there like an episode of Futurama that revolves
Yeah.
around that? They like drink the former king because they're like water
Yeah.
people. That's how they like move the lineage
Yeah,
on.
he's Fry the Solid, pretty much. that was why. When they had to beat him up.
Make him cry.
Yep.
Yep.
The king didn't want to be sweated out of an armpit or urinated out. I wanted to touch on two different things. One was Alexander the Great. He wanted to unify everybody, stop all wars by having the one last war, just spreading his religion and his philosophy and unifying everybody. I don't know. I think that, and my kick for this episode is kind of the evil monarch, or like the overruling monarch, because this is a quote. I wish I knew where it was from, but I was talking to a coworker about this episode, and it's "The road to hell is paved in good intentions." And I think like going out and trying to do the world a favor can lead to some pretty drastic changes when you're trying to do what you think is best for everyone. But I mean, he did unify a lot of people. We have the Silk Road and coinage and I don't know, a lot of cultures that kind of blend together. So there's that.
Hey, from what I'm researching on that, apparently it was Saint Bernard of Clairvaux
Okay.
who
Yeah,
initially had.
He saved people up in the mountains.
Yeah.
With a keg of bourbon around his neck.
His dog chins.
But apparently the original comes from kind of the shorter form of that comes from Virgil's Aeneid, and it's easy to go to hell.
Yes. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And,
There it is.
Huh.
It is easy to go to hell.
But
Yeah. Devil,
Devil's
demon.
There's
devil,
a highway
devil's
there.
the devil.
and I think that kind of ties into kind of the other old aphorism of power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yes.
And who wields almost absolute power within a monarchy would be the king.
Spider-Man.
And
He does fight the kingpin.
well, that is true, but then he has to
And
get some chocolate
drinks
milk.
only the finest of chocolate milk.
It's so good. You'd kill your uncle for one. Uncle Ben's rice.
But yeah, I think it is very interesting because you talk about the responsibility of a ruler, and it really is one of those things where you're a traditional leader of men rides a razor's edge. Hey,
I like it better when they're riding the lasers.
Right.
Rides a
well,
laser.
it's trying to get a
Ride the
laser's
Laser's
Laser's Edge sounds like a pretty sweet song title.
To
be honest.
It does, right? It does.
But yes.
Yeah, they basically the difference between being a great ruler or being a horrific ruler is very small between the two.
Murdering the next king.
Yeah.
The next king.
The next king.
Just like
Yeah.
If it's a democracy, you got to murder a lot of people to figure it out.
that's right.
Everyone who's elected.
Majority
every-
has the murder.
I was thinking about that quote you said.
Mhm.
And I think, Todd, could you tell me what the Staples guy would say if he went to hell?
That was easy.
You're
All right, I'm
holding
done.
on to that one.
That's a good one.
I didn't want to interrupt anybody. I felt really bad for everybody interrupting earlier.
Uh,
A very interrupting.
you know
That's
what?
true.
We still have that title, so it doesn't mattress. But what we can sleep on is who does it well or just does it differently. Bill,
Yeah.
Did
I wake you up?
I've just been quiet for so long, so it seemed like appropriate.
1,000 years, I'm free.
Time to conquer Earth. Not Rita Repulsa. She's
No.
terrible.
That's our next segment.
For like I said earlier, I think Twilight Princess Zelda is one of the best Zeldas. I think.
love that game.
Not like game. Not the game is.
Well-
sorry, you still love it, but I think that it, like the aesthetics were nice. I think that's what you're probably agree on with me. But I really like it. Really portrayed like how hard it is as like the ruler of a land. Like they were invaded by a force that was clearly stronger, and she was ready to fight. But when she saw like what they were capable of, she made the tough decision to give herself as a captive to keep everyone alive.
Big yellow
I
diamond.
thought it was like one of the first times we really saw Zelda being kind of like this ruling figure, someone who has to make those decisions. Most of them up to that point, she was like either not a big part or in Ocarina of Time, she was more of like a rebel freedom fighter, the most exposure you got from her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's true.
Very
And
regal.
for... Yes.
It's been interesting.
I think that's one of my favorite Zelda designs, actually, too.
Mhm.
I mean, it's been interesting to see her develop as a leader. I mean, you kind of got to see tropes get old, kind of in real time when you look at a series that has been going on as long as Zelda has. I mean, back, in the first couple games when she was just the mute, damsel in distress, it wasn't a big deal because video games were a new medium and we didn't really have established, this is boring, this has been done before. I mean, you had in other mediums that carried over to video games, but as time's gone on, she's almost been forced to become more three-dimensional simply for the fact that tropes now exist.
Mhm.
She's developed way more than Link
Yeah,
has.
that's true for sure.
Mhm.
And each iteration of her has been like completely different, whereas Link is always like the silent hero. Between like Wind Waker and like the other series, like you have expressions a little bit more with the Wind Waker series. He's a very expressive character, but it's just that quiet, like brave hero. Whereas Zelda's been like Sheik, she was like a freedom fighter. She's been this big ruler. She's been a pirate.
Yep.
She was awesome as a pirate.
Yeah, Tetra's awesome.
She was awesome. She was good in Spirit Tracks too. She was a main character there. Like you
Yeah,
play as
'cause
her.
she possessed the suit of armor. Yeah, like she's been a very good example of like the ruling character. I think.
Well, good. And I would agree.
Yeah.
Todd Ogredose?
Yeah, I have kind of an interesting example because it's two kinds of ruler at the exact same time, kind of. It's the Leonardo DiCaprio version of The Man in the Iron Mask,
Ooh.
where it is two brothers being essentially being the same character, and it's the king that is there now is like ruthless, and he's just a terrible person. He's that terrible dictator type.
Mhm.
And so a coup is created. You find out that he has a twin brother that has been locked away, and so the three musketeers free the brother, and he's a very like soft-spoken, very kind, very generous person. So they do a coup to essentially kidnap the evil brother away and replace him with the good brother. And I think it's just a really cool example of, while they're two separate characters, they're supposed to be like, it's supposed to be a replacement. So it's, in essence, he's supposed to be becoming his brother. But you get those two extremes of the ruler class with that. Is you get your your harsh dictator who only cares about himself and rules with an iron fist. Then you get the very kind and benevolent leader too. So I thought it was a really kind of a cool example. It's a cool movie too. It doesn't exactly follow the book, but it was a cool telling of it, I thought, and a bunch of really good actors in it too. But yeah, I thought of that just because it was like kind of like a polar opposite example in itself, and I thought it was kind of a cool way to express the two major things when you think of like a ruler class. So yeah, that's mine.
It's a more dynamic approach to the Prince and the Pauper, is what I kind of take away from
Yeah,
it.
kinda, yes. I can definitely see that.
Well, it just creates a little bit more interest, because then you have your evil king, and then you have like the person who should be ruling, and then the person who actually is. While Prince and the Pauper is more of like a, grass is greener on the other side kind of version to the two people who look alike.
Yeah. It's a little more lighthearted in The Prince and the Pauper.
Anna, are you guys
Hello?
falling asleep?
Nope.
Doing okay?
I was actually just thinking, man, you just summarized Prince and the Pauper in one sentence. Just literally, grass is greener on the other side. Done.
Grass is greener on the other side. Could be better, could be worse. Anyway,
Entire fable done.
entire fable done. Do you want to talk about
me to go?
stuff? Or do
Yeah.
you want to get interrupted? Because that's what's going to happen if you don't go.
It is the title of this episode.
I'm going to try my
No,
best
Todd.
not to interrupt Anna at all. I want her to finish.
So
up
what I was
once.
thinking is Mama, actually, from Dread.
Whoa!
Because I don't know, it's been 2 years since Dread came out. I'm pretty
Hasn't
sure.
been 2 years?
Pretty sure.
Since what came out?
Dread.
Yes,
Dread
it
3D.
has.
Dread.
Dread
Oh,
3D.
yeah,
the new
yeah,
Dread. So Mama is like this gang leader in the story, and she's not like widespread necessarily. She's starting up this new drug, and she like took over 3 different gangs, and it's just interesting. She started off as like a prostitute or something, and she just rose to power very quickly, and kind of built an empire very fast.
Through brutality, mostly.
Absolute ruthlessness is how she did it, and they never like fully explain it as it goes on in the story. And she's just, I don't know, I think she's an interesting character because she's completely calm. She never like shouts during the whole thing. I think
No.
she's just like really subtle. So I mean, she's definitely an evil character, but it's an interesting take on the like kind of power hungry one.
And it's not through like a recognized government either. It's a gang rulership, pretty much. It's kind of self-imposed, also kind of democratic at the same time, because, well, fear instead.
Fear boner.
Fear boners. Yes. We arose to power. I don't know. I'm not gonna. Can I get a "that was easy" for that one?
I guess
That was easy.
that almost seems a little too.
But props to the actress, Lena Headey. Well, how do you say your last name?
Heady flies.
Anyway, she's also Cersei in Game of Thrones.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So it's cool. She's been multiple ruler characters.
Lardies and power.
Lardies.
Lardies and gentlemen.
My favorite.
Okay. I believe that was a full point.
I got some full stuff said. I could go on, but I'd rather someone interrupt me.
Like Saker?
I'll interrupt.
Yeah.
I am here. Yeah, I had 2 that I really liked. I hope that's okay. Baby. Boy, if these 2 were a couple. So my first is Princess Bubblegum.
Oh, okay.
From Adventure Time. I really like her because she's gone through a very, very weird and drastic change throughout the series. At the beginning of Adventure Time, she was a very benevolent, very, kind leader as far as she, from the viewer's POV. But then as time went on, I mean, it hasn't been 2 years for all of the plot developments, I don't think, but we've begun to see a lot more of the dark side of Princess Bubblegum and a lot of the just really weird and kind of borderline not antagonistic, but certainly the stuff that she does for her kingdom may not always be on the up and up. Which I like that ruler who has kind of a hard edge to them, who's not always, for the good of, I'm doing good things for good people. It's, I do whatever it takes to make sure that my kingdom is secure, which I really like that aspect of Princess Bubblegum. Anybody else chime in on Princess Bubblegum, or should I move on to my other one?
Freaky. I think it's
okay, good enough. Yeah, she really is. And I mean, we've got so many glimpses of her. Even in the Simon and Marcy episode, there may have been a bubblegum thing, but it's just there's so much going on with her character. I really find her interesting. My other favorite one is King P, aka Porky from Mother 3. So the Mother series is another one of my favorite series.
Also known as
it's
Earthbound, yes.
Earthbound in the US, yeah. And this is the one for the Game Boy Advance, the third one in the series, the one that follows Earthbound that we didn't get. And it takes there's a character that they're talking about all game called King P, and you don't know who he is. He ends up being the ultimate antagonist, and he was the pseudo antagonist from Earthbound, but he rules this place called New Pork City, which he's created in his own image. But he's one of the villains. He's not really a reluctant villain. He's a little kid who doesn't realize what he's doing, and he just wants friends. I don't know. I find those kind of kings interesting too. I guess I just like it when kings are villains rather than heroes, because I feel like king as hero is kind of an overused trope, and Porky does it really well simply because he's so tragic. Yup.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about it.
Okay.
You do?
I don't know much about Porky. I just know the level in Smash Bros.
Yeah, well, I
didn't know there was like the huge backstory to that.
Oh my goodness.
I know he chases Lucas down as a statue.
Yeah, that statue is actually a hidden boss from Mother 3, who you can, or I actually never encountered him, I just read about him. But yeah, okay, so basically, just to kind of give a rundown of Porky, I mean, he meets Ness during the events of Earthbound, and then, he's on maybe 10 minutes of the adventure with him before he freaks out and goes home. And then he basically gets in contact with the ultimate evil, who's the personification of chaos. And he's able to just kind of so the personification of chaos who came to Earth millions of years ago and has been slowly infecting our culture ever since. Sure. Porky somehow finds a way to talk to him and to kind of be BFFs with him.
Holy cow.
By stealing this incredibly advanced technology from another character's dad. Anyway, so long story short, Ness defeats the ultimate evil, and Porky disappears. And what he's done is he's sealed himself in this capsule and launched himself basically far into the future, put himself into a coma. And I don't know if any of this will actually make the podcast, because I'm going to explain the plot of Mother 3. And so basically, Mother 3 takes place possibly thousands, possibly millions of years after Mother 2. But Porky set up this society, and in this society is just this hero worship for Ness. Like, this guy, and it's very obvious that he wishes he were Ness. He wishes Ness were his best friend, because he sees that Ness was the coolest and Ness was a hero. And so there's theaters that do nothing but play Ness's adventure on repeat over and over again. And there's museums dedicated to all the important items from Earthbound. And Mother 3...
What a very sad...
Oh, it's so sad.
It's really sad.
But Mother 3 is one of my favorite sequels ever, because it does what my favorite sequels do. Chrono Cross also does this, which is the sequel to one of my other favorite games, Chrono Trigger, is that it's a sequel where it doesn't show you that it's a sequel right off the bat. You're not immediately playing as the same characters. It's when you get 3/4 of the way through the game, you're like, my God, the events of game A really affected game B. And I didn't even realize that you could go, 10, 20, 30 years down the road and see these kind of events changing the way that the landscape was back then. So it's my favorite kind of sequel, and then it doesn't show its whole hand. It feels like an entirely different universe at first.
That's crazy. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. None of that'll make the podcast. Plot of Mother 3.
I thought it ruled pretty.
Yeah.
I'll give it.
Just one. That's all I ask.
You always got to strive for one, at least one. Yeah, I just had Game of Thrones, but whatever. Just Game of Thrones, the character.
His
It
name
could
was
be
Game
yeah.
of Thrones? Is that his name?
Gaiman. His name is Gaiman Thronenberg. He directed The Fly.
I need a button over here.
Well, we can get you Kickstarter for that.
Okay, that sounds good.
Taco Bell videos are on the way. But just to touch on the Iron Throne for that's so sharp. It's
Were you
made out
touching
of
the Iron
swords.
Throne?
Yeah, it's made out of swords, man. Come on.
Why would you sit on it?
I didn't. I just touched it with my butt, so I did sit on it. It's Game of Thrones is interesting because it has there's a book specifically called War of Kings. I think they say that there's 7 different kings who are all vying for the seat for the Iron Throne. You've got
one of them
is that the King Beyond the Wall.
Because it's Stannis,
Robb,
the younger brother. I can't remember his name. Then Robb.
You've got
Joffrey.
the Iron Islands, the Greyjoys. Technically, that's like the Driftwood Crown, if you will. I really like the Greyjoys. Actually, it's just a brutal barbarian kind of mentality. Their family motto is "We do not sow," which means they don't plant anything. So they just go out and take what they want, which is terrifying because they're just awful. Their religion involves drowning people as their sort of like rite of passage. It's like what is dead can never die. So they're essentially drowning you, and if you come back from CPR, then you're one of them. You're ironborn, pretty much, of salt and iron. And if you don't make it, then the water god took you because you weren't ready in enough time. When a king dies, they can call a king's moot, which is where they have every ship is like its own city-state, and the captains just sort of rally around their crewmen, and depending on how much support they get, that's who becomes the next king, pretty much. So they just go into like a tavern hall and they throw down their speeches and try and rally enough support. And you know what, I might be giving away some major spoilers later on. I don't know. You know what, I don't care at all. But that's an interesting aspect of Game of Thrones. There are many other. Bill Mr. U Video has also read the books. I've been listening to a couple of the audiobooks. Really interesting universe. There's a lot of medieval political intrigue. You just have a lot of characters that kind of want power, are entitled to it, think that they can make a difference, or are just out to get everyone else. It's an interesting series, and I will not bug Mr. George reading and writing Martin. That's what writing starts with a... never mind.
Arithmetic, I think. Yeah, George.
Reading, writing, arithmetic. That's the 3 R's.
That's right.
I don't know. Anyway, Chris Moonjump.
Well, in that, one of my favorite examples for who does it really well is actually Final Fantasy VI. You actually deal with 2 emperors in that game. You deal with Emperor Gestahl, who is the leader of the evil empire in the game, and then you deal with Edgar, who's basically the ruler of Figaro Castle.
Figaro.
And it's very interesting to kind of put the 2 in kind of contrast with each other, because basically Emperor Gestahl is kind of looking for a futurist, like a futurist humanist type movement in his world, where he wants to acquire power and basically convert the Magitech Empire to everywhere around the world. So basically it's the fusion of science and magic.
Delicious.
And he does so by basically destroying anyone who doesn't subscribe to that. So effectively anyone who still practices the Esper, the Esper honoring and things like that, and basically sticks towards the natural world. He wants to force people into kind of what he would consider a civilized age. And part of that is just the simple desire for power for his particular vision of the world. And Edgar, on the other hand, is very much connected to his people, where he sees basically how it affects their individual lives and things like that. And it's not about trying to bend the world to his will. It's about becoming a person who can basically, see the world as it is and help it that way. And Edgar I love as a character because basically he spends the first part of the game, when you find him, effectively moving the castle, which is also a sand ship. I'm not really it travels on the ground in the sand, but he basically spends most of his time at the beginning of the game moving the castle around to basically evade the Empire trying to conquer his people.
Mhm.
But because once you wind up, basically your main characters get together, Edgar decides that he is going to effectively, rather than bending to the will of the people on this point, he is a good king, has actually, basically everyone signs on in the castle to help him with this endeavor of defeating the Empire. And it's very interesting to see the two, because they both possess power, but they both wield it very differently, and it's very much based on their focus. Whereas Emperor Gestal's is very single-minded and solipsistic. Edgar's is very much humanly minded and selfless. And I think that winds up being a good dichotomy. And it's actually one of the things that's to bring up another example of that, because we talked about Alexander the Great, but they also had what I feel was in many ways a very good depiction of Alexander the Great in Fate Zero, which is an anime.
An anime, yes. I understand
yes. And basically in Fate Zero they resurrect legendary characters, and one of them happens to be Alexander the Great, and he actually gives a really good synopsis on what it means to rule. Is that effectively, people are always looking for a cause, and a king can be that one, but it means that he has to be greater than every person underneath him. So there is a great deal of burden on them, but it's also the whole thing is that a ruler is meant to follow his vision of the world, even if that leads to conflict. And then his job is to basically believe and be firm enough in his thoughts and his decisions that the people underneath him will follow. But never for a second can you actually waver in that, or people will lose respect for you, and ultimately you'll lose your right to rule.
Heaven forbid you be human and double think a decision.
Nope. It's not for the old Greeks and Romans. That's not how that worked. It's actually one of my favorite stories was The Last King of Sparta from history, where the last king of Sparta basically set a bunch of constitutional reforms for the land of Sparta that basically kept it as one of the longest running democracies ever. And then he said, you guys aren't allowed to change any of this until I come back. And then he went up into the mountains and died. And so they weren't actually allowed to change the Constitution because they were honor bound to him basically until the collapse of the Roman Empire.
Awesome.
Or until the collapse of the Greek states. And yeah, like, that's kind of amazing because, to have people believe in you so wholeheartedly that you could pull something like that and they'd still trust your vision even after death is cool.
You talked a little about Final Fantasy before that, and I think it's really interesting that FF6 especially has a lot of rulers or people in position of power that are all over the board. Because I think Edgar's definitely, as far as charts for D&D, I can't remember what they're called, are concerned. Gestalt is like lawful evil, and Edgar's kind of lawful good. But then you have people like Kefka, who becomes obviously a ruler in a big way.
Yeah.
Who's
and massively chaotic evil.
Oh my god, yeah, absolutely chaotic evil. And he just fun for the sake of fun, or evil for the sake of fun. But I really like that Final Fantasy runs the board with different types. In general, Leo too, in a sense, but he's kind of lawful good as well, and he's not really. He's a leader of the army, but I don't think that qualifies him as a ruler. So I don't know. I was thinking about FF6 and how it kind of runs the gamut.
Yeah, and Final Fantasy is actually a very interesting series for that because, over the course of all of the series, it's been all over the charts. Where you deal with because they almost exclusively deal with medieval or monarchist type settings.
Mm-hmm.
They do kind of run the gamut in that perspective, because you effectively get people like Sid, who basically runs the world, like in FF8, where he runs the world's paramilitary organization effectively, and he's very different from, let's say, the President of Esther. Or from any of the other number of ones, you deal with it in FF12, where you deal with both the princess and who should be the rightful ruler, and the way that she views both her personal story in the crusade for revenge and her obligations to her people is very different. But you also definitely have the evil empire side of that occurs as well throughout the series. I mean, hell, Final Fantasy III is entirely about being a rebel group against a dominant dictator. And original FF3 is actually very interesting for that because the Emperor in there is very callous about the whole thing because he's already won. So you see almost a very different kind of thing because the world, generally speaking, in there is at peace.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's won. There are no problems. You don't have problems with insurgents. And your group upsets that order because it's still the right thing to do. But, I mean, from an outside observer, if they didn't actually know about the brutal things that happened to bring the Empire into power, it all kind of looks gravy.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing where, peace is not always the best thing for an empire because there are evil rulers who have, perfectly peaceful nations. But that peace is from a different place than, societal good. It's from a place of societal fear.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's Dr. Doom.
Yeah. And Dr. Doom is actually a great example of that because he rules with an iron fist, but you can't say that...
Literally, it is
yeah.
It is in an iron glove.
But you can't necessarily say that his country is not better off for it in some respects either. It's one of those, like we talked about earlier, about being on the laser's edge. is sometimes unintentionally good or purposefully good outcomes can come from evil intentions and actions. And on the exact same flip side of that, you can have very evil outcomes from intentionally good ones.
Mm-hmm.
Secret of Mana actually deals with that in and hopefully this isn't too super spoilery. The Emperor actually in that game is the one who basically sends out the dragons to destroy the Mana Stones so that he can basically stop all of the warring that occurs by unleashing a super weapon. And ultimately what he winds up doing is effectively causing the burning of the Mana Tree, which causes a massive dark age in the world. But he had good intentions to start. It's just they end horrifically.
In hell. It's very easy.
It's easy to get there.
Exactly.
That's
That was easy.
Thank you.
That's Kant.
It's on the
Is
ball
that Kant,
outside.
right? Or I can't remember the philosopher, but one of them said if you do a bad thing but it turns out good, you've still done a bad thing. And one of them says if you do a bad thing and it turns out good, then you did a good thing. Like basically, the end is the thing that matters versus the intention is the thing that matters.
Yes, consequentialism, that is Kant.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I can't remember who the opposite person was then.
I can't remember either.
I mean, there's plenty of them for that. I mean, you've got people like Soren Kierkegaard, who basically is all virtue ethics. So doing something with good intentions is the important part. The consequences effectively are almost out of your control in your pursuit of doing good.
Right.
You make the best of what you can. Sometimes that's not the best thing.
Right.
It doesn't mean you don't act.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's actually it's a very interesting way to kind of look at problems like that, because we've seen a lot of things with Mad Kings, or Aladdin, like Todd was talking about earlier, is actually an interesting example, because the Sultan there is acting purely out of good intentions, and had it not been for the fact that this is a Disney movie and we actually had a protagonist who could deal with it, could have ended horrifically.
Just handing over his daughter to an old man.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
But
you
you're so old.
figure dynastic reigns like that have led to things, have led to terrible institutions throughout generations for hundreds of years. Yeah, it's the ethics of ruling are always a very interesting thing with that, because, basically it winds up in many ways being an issue of perspective.
2-point or 3-point?
Technically 3-point.
Well, there's 4-point also. I mean, if you wanted to do like a kind of like a bird's eye or worm's eye, I don't know. I'm just kind of thinking about fantasy art right now. But that transition was done badly, and who does it badly? We're gonna find out next.
A segue going off of a cliff.
Going off the cliff. That's pretty bad.
It's my favorite ruler.
It's my favorite ruler. It's the rule. It's the rule that almost every episode we talk about the owner of the Segway dying from Segway going off the cliff.
A lot to rule that Segway.
Oh gosh. I said Starscream does it badly, but you guys can fight me. So
Why?
What?
Okay.
I think you're just plain wrong.
Because he usually fucks it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
He wants to be the ruler.
Because he got shot and turned to stone?
Is because you consistently know you have a traitor in your midst, and he constantly screws up your operations.
This is
And
also
you
true.
keep him around. Why?
Not after that.
Yeah.
Well, it's technically Galvatron that
I
got
guess
rid of him
so.
finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just never proves himself, but he always wants power, and he's always whining, and he keeps fucking things up, and he never gets fired. Why won't he get fired? Why won't someone fire him if he's doing a bad job? Hey, Anna.
Hello.
What do you think does badly?
There's a lot of like really overdone tropes.
Yeah.
The ruler. We've gone over a lot of them. I think just like the placeholder ruler. There's hardly any point for them to be in the story typically.
Mm-hmm.
If they're just there to rule, but not even do it. Like
King Brick.
King Brick. That's a good way to put it. Like Mayor of Townsville, like kind of shit where literally they need everything done for them.
Mm-hmm.
And
Isn't that what makes him charming, though?
and a little bit. It's
Sure.
mostly Tom Kenny that makes him
Yeah.
charming. But
Oh my god, that was Tom. Oh
that
my
was Tom
god.
Kenny.
Last week, somebody had a revelation about Tom Kenny. This week it was me.
It'll be every week.
Every week, a new Tom
Every
Kenny
week,
voice.
a new Tom Kenny character.
Yeah.
Tom Kenny, Revelations. A new series coming to Sci-Fi.
That one's not even as bad though. When it gets to like Zelda stuff though, not with Zelda the character.
freaking king
but,
from Zelda.
Just where like you play as a character that's assisting royalty
Oh yeah.
and never get any like credit for it typically.
Mhm. Nope.
That's where it gets annoying. Just where like whoever the ruler is inept. But other than that, there's a lot of different paths that can go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think you started on one path and then you ended on another.
I know.
Well, but not that that's bad, because I think that's, we were kind of exploring the topic. But your first idea of just like the ruler who might as well be, in anime they use this stylistically a lot. But like if somebody's not important, they don't even have any eyes or like they're just a mouth that's talking or something. It's just a body and a mouth on it. Like, yeah, I feel you there. It's just a king for the sake of being a king, and I kind of flash back to, maybe it's just because we were talking about Final Fantasy, but like Dragon Warrior 1 and Final Fantasy 1, where the king was just a guy whose text box said king, and he was like, go on quest, and Yor said, okay. Like, yeah, that's the extent of king.
It was the king, I gotta do it.
Yeah, well, you can't deny that.
You see that brick talk to me? You gotta do it
Did you
now.
hear what that brick said? I have a quest.
Brick.
King Brick, part of the
I get
Utropeia
anything
League of
from it? No,
Extraordinary
the king
Gentlemen. Anyway, thrown for a loop on that one.
Oh.
No, you know what? Fuck you. I like that one. I thought that was a good one.
I think it'll just take some time to hit us. That's a real brick joke.
I don't understand the parallel for what you're.
Neither do I.
Is brick joke an actual like?
Yeah, brick joke's a thing. Have you never
Is
heard
it
of a
an
brick
actual-
joke?
No,
What
I
do you-
haven't.
This
It's
won't
the
make the
first time.
podcast. Are you ready?
You
okay.
just laid that on me.
So, god damn it. Let me cement
What
this
are you,
idea for you.
stoned?
Look,
Mason me crazy.
my son,
My son.
my beautiful son.
My sonny Koku.
Yes, but no, I've never heard of that before. Right now, is a brick joke is just like a joke that you just drop.
No, a brick
It's a
joke is
forced
a joke
joke.
where you say something like, okay, there's a great brick joke at the beginning of Earthworm Jim. Has everybody
Okay.
played Earthworm Jim? Maybe?
Yes.
Okay, so at the end of level 1, you launch a cow into the sky. It's almost a literal brick joke. And then at the very end of the game, the cow comes down and crushes the princess. So the brick joke is a brick that you throw up in the air, and then you forget about it, and then it comes
Yeah.
down at some point in the future.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, never mind. All right, my joke
No.
definitely.
It's good. You came.
To hell with this podcast. I mean, let's fire this podcast in
Well,
the
it's-
kiln. I got nothing.
It's easy.
I was thinking I need to have a sound. Here's my sound. I literally just searched for free sound online.
What?
It's called
Podcast sucks.
it's called Male Cartoon Pleased with Hands Chafing.
I really don't want to know what search terms you had to put in for that one. Not
It
gonna
was
lie.
free sound. That was the search term.
And that was the first thing that you found.
I may have done a little digging. But
Your sound that I possibly could.
how can you deny? Oh, it's gone. Oh, why is it?
That's how I can deny it. And now you can hear me.
All right. Anyway,
All right. So, Bill, who does it poorly? Or me?
The Scorpion King.
Scorpion King? The Rock?
Oh.
Yes.
Rock.
The movie was terrible. Actually, was The Rock even in just the Scorpion? No, that was the sequel to that one. I don't know. Not good movies.
Wasn't it? Well, the Scorpion King was its own movie, and then he was in
Mummy
the,
2.
Oh, it was The Mummy 2.
Other way
The
around.
Mummy
And
2.
then there was The Scorpion King, and then there was like Rise of the Scorpion
Yeah.
King or some stupid crap. I don't
It was
know.
a CGI, maybe Rock Johnson, and then Rise of the Scorpion King was him in the desert.
was like, yeah, it was the actual supposed story of the
That
Scorpion
one
King.
maybe villain in the Mummy 2 that wasn't Emotep. Maybe. Alrighty. Any other opinions on that?
nope.
No, I don't really got anything.
No, the
Well,
CG was
yeah.
terrible. I agree.
This episode is just getting sassier.
Yeah.
Chris Moonjump.
In terms of people who do it badly, I think really the one that always kind of falls into a bad category for me would be like your Borgia type king, where
Just a suit
basically
made out of beets?
yes,
Okay.
served but no, basically any of your type of rulers where effectively, where you get like the hedonist king, and basically they only serve as, hey, this is your designated bad guy. Like,
Yeah.
I understand in many ways most stories are like a lot of stories are not written with the king actually being, the focal character, so they're not going to go much into backstory or motivations and things like that. But whenever you wind up getting that particular type where it's like, oh, well, we need someone to dislike. Well, no one likes, corrupted power, so there you go, big bad king.
So easy to build an army. So easy.
No, and because it also often falls in line with a lot of other tropes, because effectively you've got the weak king who then has the power hungry vizier who then has, the noble general that works, who does it for the good of the people even though he doesn't like what he does, and it basically it kind of is the cascading cause of a lot of other kind of boring tropes and genres or stale tropes and genres.
I would agree. We have run the gambit on this trope, actually, on this archetype. I think.
I have one more who does it badly.
I'm interested.
Okay. My who does it badly was Lord Ozai. I feel bad because every time it comes to who does it badly, I have an Avatar suggestion, which I really
usually hit on Avatar at least once an episode. I think
it's
we've
weird.
been doing it for a while.
But I love Avatar, but boy, does it do a lot of tropes badly. Lord Ozai is so evil that it becomes a caricature. Like, his son talked out of turn once, and he scarred him permanently and kicked him out. Like, I don't know. He's just like, and when somebody brings up the idea of kindness or forgiveness, he like laughs in their face. He's just so ridiculously evil to the point where it's not even, I don't know. He's a ruler who's so evil that it becomes ridiculous.
You don't even see him as a person anymore. He's just a plug and play robot, pretty much. Like, we need a really evil guy. How about this guy? Sure, why not?
Yeah, it's
Throw
true.
him in jail.
Tell me where my mother is.
I could, if you solve my riddle. No, that would give him more personality than he actually has.
It was like one of the last scenes in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Zuko's like, "Listen, you son of a bitch, where's my mom?" And he's like, "No,
You'll never tell." Remember when your brother died? Yes.
Man, had he become Riddlemaster Ozai, he would have had so much of a better arc. Oh, damn you.
Tell me this, Avatar. What has 10 fingers and will burn you to a crisp? My daughter! And then she just shoots in from behind.
He just curls his mustache.
Oh man, yeah, that would have been the only way he could have been better, is if he had a big curly Q mustache.
And a top hat that was actually a smokestack.
Oh my god.
Actual smokestack.
Oh, like, what is it, Chimney Boy or Chimney Man?
Chimcharoo?
Chim Charoo.
Yep, that's his name. Chimcharoo.
Chimney?
Chimney. Boy Chimney.
Chimney
Yes.
Boy
Chim
Chimney.
Boyman.
Wow.
Wow.
There it is. That's the one that's gonna sell it.
Maybe.
Chim Boyman.
Sure, Chim Boyman. That's what's going on the title card.
Chim Boyman.
Sure, why not?
Oh.
I think that's what Koreans eat.
You can't. Wait, you can.
What can't she do? All right, any final thoughts?
No, none.
All right, good. So, yeah,
Goodbye.
until we talk geek or whatever, later.
Bye.
Wait.
Oh yeah, the next episode, it's plot devices. It's bottle episodes.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like this
All of our
one.
episodes are
Who
bottle
took my
episodes.
pen?
They're only bottle episodes in the fact that we drink through the entire episode.
Got water out of a skull mug. That's
That's
what I do. Yes, it is. Dispute me.
I refuse.
Fair enough. I refuse to end this podcast unless we all sign off. So,
Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
I don't have to do what you tell me.
I hit file, but I can't find sign off. It might be that I haven't used AOL since 1999.
well, have you found the any key? With a hamburger bitty on it?
Yes.
All right, yeah. Trope, you found what you're looking for? Until we talk geek next week.
Bye.